I would like to invite up our stewardship speaker, Jim McBride. Jim has been a member of Christ Church for a number of years, but he is a faithful 8 o'clocker, so you may not have met him. And he is also on the vestry, but Jim and Emmy are wonderful members. And Jim, thank you for speaking to us today.
Well, good morning, everyone. When I was a little boy, probably about 7 or 8, I had a dog. It was a beagle. He wasn't much to look at. He was short and he was fat. Gosh, that dog loved to eat. And his name was Oso because it was oh so dumb. Now, we were pretty inseparable. I lived in a working-class steel town, you know, a kind of town where the houses were about 6 feet apart from one another. And back then, dogs roamed loose throughout the town. Oso would run free every day with his dog friends, and of course, I would run with them. But then, on one occasion, he was missing for 2 days. He didn't come home. And I was really worried. So I searched the neighborhood, and then about 4 blocks from my house, I heard a woof coming from inside a home. I could swear it was Oso. So I plucked up my courage. Here I am, this little guy, and I walked up the walkway, and I knocked on the door. And the door was answered by an elderly couple. They must have been in their 40s. Behind them, who is wagging his tail but Oso? So then I told them, that's my dog. And they said that he had looked lost and they had let him in and that he didn't want to leave. And I was upset. My dog didn't want to leave. And I asked if they were feeding him and they said yes. And I said, well, what are you feeding him? And they said, steak. And I thought, can I stay here too? You know? But I took Oso home, and coming home was great. What was lost was found. And I remember distinctly a feeling of warmth and happiness and a sense of belonging. And I know this might sound crazy to you, but honestly, that's how I feel about Christ Church. It's like coming home. Now, I want to tell you another very quick story here about when we first came to Christ Church. It must have been about 7 or 8 years ago. That was I and my wife, Emmy. You probably know Emmy. She's on the Altar Guild, and our son, Alexander. And so when we came in, we sat in the left aisle. Why? Because we were new and we were nervous. And we wanted to remain inconspicuous, and the last thing was to get noticed, right? So we really enjoyed the service and the sermon, and we admired the sanctuary, which was so beautiful, and the stained glass, and we were sitting right over there. And so we were particularly intrigued by this stained glass of Jesus with the children, donated many years ago. So there's Jesus with the children. There are 5 children in all, the youngest in the arms of Jesus. So we looked at the stained glass, and at the bottom, lo and behold, it was dedicated to a member of the Corcoran family. You'll never guess what Emmy's maiden name is. Corcoran, right? And you'll never guess how many kids were in her family. 5. And who was the youngest? Emmy. So to us, it was like the hand of God. So Christ Church is our home, like it is for so many of us. And the church does so much, the magnificent choir, Andrew Moore's fantastic musicianships, Reverend Kevin's family ministry, Father Robert with all his help in the past 2 months, Chris Whitaker's work with the youth group and pilgrimages across the nation, the food pantry of the Oranges, education for the ministry and Bible study, the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, Episcopal Relief and Development, English as a second language, and so much more. Not to mention, of course, our wonderful rector, Reverend Bowie, and her marvelous sermons. So please support this magnificent endeavor with a generous pledge this year. And if you look at your budget at the end of the year and you have a little bit extra, remember Christ Church. Can I have an amen? Amen. Thank you.